The US hits companies helping Russia bypass sanctions. NATO launched an operation to protect Eastern Europe. The UN backs a Palestinian government without Hamas. Top international stories coming up. US President Donald Trump says he's ready to impose new sanctions on Russia, but only if all NATO countries stop buying Russian oil. He made the statement on Truth Social. Trump also said that if the US and its NATO allies introduce tariffs of 50 to 100% on Chinese goods, it could help bring an end to Russia's war against Ukraine.
I am ready to do major sanctions on Russia when all NATO nations have agreed and started to do the same thing, and when all NATO nations stop buying oil from Russia. As you know, NATO's commitment to win has been far less than 100%, and the purchase of Russian oil by some has been shocking. It greatly weakens your negotiating position and bargaining power over Russia. Anyway, I am ready to go when you are. Just say when. I believe that this, plus NATO as a group, placing 50% to 100% tariffs on China to be fully withdrawn after the war with Russia and Ukraine is ended, will also be of great help in ending this deadly but ridiculous war.
Earlier this week, Donald Trump said his patience is running out as Putin continues to stall peace talks. Trump also said pressure on Moscow could include very tough sanctions on banks as well as measures targeting oil and tariffs. He reminded that he had already imposed tariffs on India, which continues to buy Russian energy. Meanwhile, the United States imposed sanctions on several foreign companies accused of helping supply dual-use goods to Russia. The US Department of Commerce has added 32 entities from 10 countries to its sanction list. The majority, 23 companies, are registered in China. The list also includes 3 firms from Turkey, 2 from the United Arab Emirates, and 1 each from India, Iran, Singapore, and Taiwan. According to US officials, some Chinese firms supplied technology to Russian military and users, while several Turkish companies helped redirect components by concealing their true recipients. Being placed on the list means a ban on the export, re-exports, or transfer of American technologies without a special license. The restriction takes effect on September 16th. On Friday, September 12th, NATO has launched a new mission to strengthen the defense of Europe's eastern flank. The move comes in a response to Russian drone entering Polish airspace. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte reported the launch of active alliance operation along the eastern border. The mission, which began on the evening of Friday, September 12, involves a range of resources including air and ground bases. According to the Secretary General, Denmark, France, the United Kingdom and Germany have already joined the operation, with other allies set to participate in the coming days.
In the early hours of Wednesday, September 10th, numerous Russian drones violated Polish airspace. NATO's air defenses were activated and successfully ensured the defense of NATO territory. Whilst this was the largest concentration of violations of NATO airspace that we have seen, what happened on Wednesday was not an isolated incident. Russia's recklessness in the air along our eastern flank is increasing in frequency. We have seen drones violate our airspace in Romania, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Whether intentional or not, it is dangerous and unacceptable.
Earlier, NATO Secretary General warned that a Russian missile could reach the capitals of Spain or the United Kingdom in just 5 to 10 minutes. Allies not geographically close to Russia should not be complacent. Distance is relevant when it comes to missile technology. Rutte emphasized that all of Europe now sits on the eastern flank, whether you are in London or Tallinn. NATO described its response to Russian drone attack in Poland as a successful operation. Out of 19 drones, only 4 were shot down, with fighter jets as F-16 and F-35 involved in the effort.
I do think it was a highly successful operation, intercepting the drones that we did with the Dutch F-35s and the other assets that contributed to that. As successful as we are, we always learn something in the debrief, as we would say in the fighter business. And so we are always looking for ways to enhance, to learn from the smallest tactical error to how we're approaching certain problems.
Meanwhile, in Poland, although the Russian drone strike is seen as a targeted attack against NATO, officials say they do not plan to sever diplomatic ties with Russia. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski made the remarks during his visit to Kyiv. He reminded that Poland has already restricted the activities of Russian diplomats in certain regions and called on European partners to reduce their number in their own capitals. He also described the drone incursion as a moment of truth and emphasized that it could not have been accidental.
A penetration of Polish and NATO airspace by Russian drones is a moment of truth, because these drones crossed into our airspace not only from Ukraine but also from Belarus. The air fight lasted 7 hours. So this was not an accident, and anybody who says that this was Ukrainian provocation is either the author or a willing accomplice of Russian propaganda.
Polish Foreign Minister added that the intensifying Russian attacks on Ukraine show Moscow is not ready for a peace or ceasefire. Against this backdrop, Poland plans to expand military cooperation with Ukraine and provide 40 million euros. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the attack was an attempt by Russia to test and push the West and NATO's red lines. Zelensky agrees that NATO members are avoiding and have reasons to avoid responses that could draw the alliance into the war. At the same time, he noted that there are scenarios that are safe for NATO yet still effective.
Strong answers are needed. For example, we will give Ukraine the weapons that Ukraine has never had, and these weapons will arrive not by drones, but by factories that produce these drones. And this is not about NATO, this is about Ukraine.
China has also responded to Russian drone attack. Beijing called the incursion into Poland the result of the crisis in Ukraine and urged calm and restraint. This statement was made at a UN Security Council meeting by China's Deputy Permanent Representative Geng Shuan. Geng Shuan stressed that the drone incident is a consequence of the crisis in Ukraine. He added that there had recently been some positive momentum in dialogue and negotiations, but significant differences remain between the parties on a number of critical issues.
We call on all parties to exercise appropriate calm and restraint, resolve disputes through dialogue and consultation, avoid misunderstandings and misjudgments, and prevent any possible escalation in the current context.
He added that any misunderstanding or misjudgment could deepen the trust deficit. Any controversial rhetoric could trigger escalation, and a military clash could lead to a greater instability. The UN General Assembly has backed the creation of a Palestinian government without Hamas participation. 142 countries adopted the New York Declaration on establishing a two-state solution for peace in the Middle East. The move effectively signals international support for a Palestinian government that excluded Hamas. The resolution was supported by most EU countries, Ukraine, the United Kingdom, many Arab states, China and Russia. 10 countries voted against it, including Israel, the US, Hungary and Argentina. Iran did not vote, while several countries, including Moldova and the Czech Republic, abstained. According to the UN website, ahead of the vote, France's permanent representative to the UN, Jérôme Bonafort, reminded delegates that the New York Declaration sets out a unified plan of action to implement the two-state solution. The plan calls for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, the release of all hostages, and the creation of a viable sovereign Palestinian state. It also includes the disarmament of Hamas and its removal from governance in Gaza, the normalization of relations between Israel and Arab states, and the provision of collective security guarantees. Israel does not agree with the document calling for the creation of a Palestinian state alongside Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated on September 11th that such a state should not be established, and he views statement by other countries recognizing it as a support for Hamas militants.
This one-sided declaration will not be remembered as a step toward peace, only as another hollow gesture that weakens this assembly's credibility. This is not diplomacy. It is theater, a carefully staged performance for headlines, not for peace. It doesn't shorten the war, it prolongs it. It does not weaken Hamas, it rewards them. It does not advance negotiations, it undermines them.
This month, the UN General Assembly plans to recognize the State of Palestine. While General Assembly resolutions are not legally binding, they reflect the balance of power within the global organization. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called US Special Envoy Kit Kellogg the best air defense. According to the president, during visits by the American delegation, the Russians do not dare to strike the Ukrainian capital. Zelensky made the remarks during a speech at the annual Yalta European Strategy meeting in Kyiv.
I want to especially thank now General Kellogg. Truly, we didn't know it before, but as it turns out, the United States have air defense as good as Patriot. Truly, Mr. General, people say that every time you're here, when Keith Kellogg is in Kiev, Kiev residents can surely get some sleep.
According to Zelensky, additional Kellogg air defense systems should be deployed to other regions of Ukraine to ensure they are not targeted by Russian attacks. The president emphasized that such results are not achieved with representatives from other countries. Zelensky also said he is willing to grant Kellogg Ukrainian citizenship and provide housing if it would help bring about a ceasefire.
To be honest, this is not entirely a joke. When a representative of the United States President, President Trump, is in Kyiv, there are no massive strikes. Murderers abstain from murders. It doesn't work with representatives of other countries.
Kit Kellogg arrived in Kyiv on September 11th, the day after the Russian drone attacks on Poland. Volodymyr Zelensky described the meeting with the US Special Envoy as a constructive. The Ukrainian and American sides discussed how to achieve a real peace and security guarantees for Ukraine, as well as purchase of Patriot air defense systems and the joint production of drones and weapons. That's it for now. If you enjoyed this update, give us a like and let us know what you think in the comments. For the latest news, follow our new X account, WarrenPolitics24. The link is in the video description.